enjoy rugby union predictions for National League of Rugby and the Six Nations. Go on, have a go. Smile, enjoy. Last weekend, exciting. That exciting, the fact that it started on Thursday. But never fear. Seniormash here, taking on ChatGPT. Second round of the Six Nations, and we're into about the fifth or sixth week of National League Rugby Division 1, ChatGPT versus Seniormash. So, let's get straight into it with the Six Nations. So, I've gone for Ireland by 15 and ChatGPT has gone for Ireland by 9. So why do we think that works? Well, obviously, Ireland coming off a very difficult game against France, Italy coming off that superb victory. So, what does it mean? Well, for me, it just means that Ireland are going to be at their ruthless best. And I think Andy Farrell will have had them in a pretty intense state all week. And I'm expecting huge bounce from Ireland. Now, can Italy beat the odds? There's always that possibility. But this week, I'm going Ireland. Now, it's then up to Murrayfield in Edinburgh for the Scotland versus England game. And to be honest, England's performance last week against Wales was one that really impressed me. I expected a slightly different game plan because of the lack of height. But as it was, Tom Roebuck came in because of an injury. So the game plan that I think many of us expected pursued, and England executed it really, really well. So for me, it's all about that same well-executed game up in Scotland. I'm going England by 10. ChatGPT has gone by 7, a skinnier margin. I think for me, England need to maintain that line speed. And I do think the way in which Borthwick is using the bench is very innovative, and I think it's really helping England's game. So, I think they'll be in business when they get up to Murrayfield. Scotland, well, they played in some pretty torrential rain, except it was in Rome, not in Edinburgh last week. For me, what was the difference? Well, the difference was very clearly that the Italians were in it to win it. And I just felt Scotland were almost, this is the easiest game of the tournament. It's ours. Let's move on. And I'm not sure that was the case. And Gregor, please, when Johnny Matthews is fit, pick him. When George Horne is fit, pick him. When you've got Duan van der Merwe and Darcy Graham, pick them. You need to score tries. I don't understand where your mentality is. I think you're spending too much time in Newcastle. And then it's France, Wales. I've gone France by 22. And to be fair, ChatGPT's gone by 14. New centre pairing for France that I think will be very effective. And I do think that they can overpower Wales. And it's really how quickly they start to overpower Wales that will determine how the game goes. But let's face it, to be clear, Wales have got some good players. You know, they may have suffered last week at the hands of England, but they've got some good players. And we shouldn't underestimate those good players. Can Steve Tandy get a game plan together for this week? I think that's asking a lot of him. What he's got to do is he's got to nurture these players. a little like when Borthwick took over from Eddie Jones. Good players, they needed nurturing. Now, Borthwick went about it in a very analytical way and probably drove many people nuts. What I think Steve Tant is capable of doing is getting the best out of these players. He's just got to find a game plan that works for them. And if you look at the way in which England have used their scrum half, potentially that's a way in which Wales can influence games. They've got a great scrum half in Tomasa Williams. I think, for me, they seem to be lacking a little direction around 10, 12, 13. However, you could argue the same was happening with England a few years ago. That centre pairing is really difficult. So, for me, going to be a tough day at the office for the Welsh. However, all in all, you've got to go with the French. So here's a recap. I'm going Ireland by 15, England by 10, and France by 22. Over to you. See what you think. You can look forward to National League Rugby here now. Well, then having said so much about the Six Nations, and let's face it, Six Nations rugby gets people watching rugby, so let's support it. But get your predictions in. So, Ireland, England, France. Let's see how it goes next week. In National League Rugby, Division 1 this weekend, we've got Sedgley Park versus Rosslyn Park. I've gone Sedge by 5 and ChatGPT's gone Rosslyn Park by 8. So opposites. Then we've got Sale FC versus Bottom Club Leicester Lions. I've gone Sale by 15. ChatGPT by 25. So I've been more conservative. One of the top dogs, Rotherham versus Dings Crusaders, and I've gone Rotherham by 15. ChatGPT by 22, basically the same call from the two of us. Then it's on to Rams versus Clifton. I've taken Rams by 7, ChatGPT by 10, so very close. Then Plymouth Albion's taking on Tonbridge Judians, TJs. I've gone Plymouth by 17 and ChatGPT by 15. Then it's, having that almost identical, we go to Leeds Tykes versus Bishop Stortford. And I've gone by 3 points and I've gone for Bishop Stortford. Whereas ChatGPT has gone Leeds by 7. And in the final game, we've got Blackheath and we've got Birmingham Moseley. I've taken Blackheath by 6. ChatGPT has taken same winner, but by 12. So that's the predictions for this weekend in National League Rugby Division 1. Learn more about National League Rugby. Go to their website or download their new app, which is lightning fast for live scores. And there's always Talking Rugby Union to help you on your way. Go on, get involved. So can there be tension between Seniormash, a human being, doing a prediction game versus ChatGPT, machine learning tool? Can there be a tension between the two? Well, if we look at the predictions I've just given you for National League Rugby Division 1, the first one is Sedgley versus Rosslyn Park. And let's face it, there's a bit of my heart with Sedge, as you know. Strangely, last week I went with Sedge based on the data and they managed to lose to Leeds Tykes. More about that in a moment. I think, for me, I think home advantage and coming off that loss, I think is where I see Sedge winning the game, to be honest. I'm hoping that Joe Bedlow's available in the centres, because I do think they're more robust with somebody like Bedlow at centre. A little bit reminiscent of when Matt Riley was playing centre, just bulks up that centre, midfield. Rosslyn Park do have a habit, in my opinion, of using their very fast and explosive wingers to cut inside. And if your inside and outside centres aren't up to it, they can break the line. So I'd encourage Sedge to be on top of that. I think for ChatGPT, if you look at the data's fairly obvious. Rosslyn Park, Rosslyn Park, Rosslyn Park. So let's see who comes out top. Heart wants it to be Sedge. Then we've got the other tension, which is Leeds Tykes versus Bishop Stortford. Now, I just think, having watched both teams recently, I just think Bishop Stortford's game will unpick Leeds Tykes. And it'll be close up in Leeds. I suspect the weather will have a little influence, but if Bishops travel well, I have a feeling their game is suited to taking an away victory. However, ChatGPT's gone with, shall I say, the obvious, and that is, you've got it, home win for Leeds. So, ChatGPT and Seniormash agree on something now. What are those agreement zones? And let's face it, this could be dangerous. Well, I think it's fairly obvious to say it's Plymouth, Rotherham, Rams, Sale and Blackheath. Margins may decide it here rather than the results. 7 games, 2 big disagreements, and margins that could decide everything. Seniormash backing grit and home form, whereas ChatGPT going with the data. Get all the latest data on Talking Rugby Union and National League Rugby. Don't forget to download the new app. If we look at how predictions are going, Seniormash, ChatGPT, we're 5 weeks into 2026 in National League Rugby Division 1. First couple of weeks, pretty tight margins decided it between the two of us. I think week 3 there was one opposite call. Week 4, margin discipline mattered more than winners. We put it together. And as we look at fixtures like Sedgley Park versus Rosslyn Park, those can create separation. So once we've got past this weekend, I'll put something together that shows the cumulative work that I've been doing to try and beat ChatGPT at predicting rugby union scores in National League Rugby Division 1. And thanks to National League Rugby for allowing me to use their statistics. Thank you for Talking Rugby Union allowing me to access some of their material, their narratives on games. Chris Heel, font of all knowledge when it comes to National League Rugby. If you get a chance, give him a follow. Give Talking Rugby Union a follow. You'll enjoy it, I can assure you. For me, I'm having great fun doing these predictions. And the analysts tell me that our numbers are improving. They're improving on Substack, they're improving on YouTube. And we've started to use some of my archive footage of games that I've been going to since probably 1999. And we started to put those together as YouTube shorts. And the guys, the team at Talking Rugby Union, I think have plans to use some of the better ones on socials around Talking Rugby Union. As we think about predictions, it's not just about predicting obvious winners, Rotherham and Plymouth. It's really about identifying upset potential and trying to come up with a margin that's within 5 points. That's proving tough. And where possible, you always need to avoid one rogue call that can flip a week. Not easy, but definitely working on it, definitely enjoying it, learning a lot. Hope you enjoy my insights. Now, let me talk to you about a game in National League Rugby last weekend, which was Sedgley Park Tigers versus Leeds Tigers. Played on a Friday night under lights at Park Lane, North Manchester. Rain all day. As the camera, so excellently used by Vinnie Morley, panned the ground, you did think, wow, are they going to play this? Because there was some standing water around the middle of the pitch. Leeds coach, referee were happy, so the game got underway. And I must confess, as the Leeds type fly half dropped the ball to kick off, that drop kick looked like it was going to go splat. It didn't. The game was on. And both teams, considering how wet it was, tried to use the ball. I do think that both teams have been watching Steve Borthwick's England, and the amount of kicking was substantial. Problem for me at that level, the accuracy of the kicking is not what you get at international level. However, the kicking did lead to action around the park. Heavy underfoot, yes. If you lost the engage at scrum time, you could be in trouble. Yellow cards, awkward. As we've commented before, and Sedgley playing Plymouth Albion, that Sedge managed to get a yellow card in about the 65th minute, and what was a relatively close game up until that point, suddenly Plymouth were out of sight. Well, you know, Leeds Tigers did something similar to Sedge last Friday. Young Bennett got a yellow card on about the 68th minute, and the pressure was then on Sedge, and they found it difficult to cope. Leeds had some very attractive ball carriers at 10 and 15 who worked tirelessly in those conditions, and one of the Red Pandas of old, Johnny Venables, was on the wing and always dangerous. And if you go onto YouTube, look up Buzz Sports or Sedgley Park Tigers, just have a look at the footwork that Charlie Venables has for one of those tries. It's superb. As for Sedge, observations, talked about the kicking. For me, they got done at the ruck. They seem to under-resource the ruck for me. And Leeds were able to counter ruck on several occasions. You know, Sedgley Park's Lewis Bradley is there jackling. The moment you're jackling, you're exposed. And if there isn't support from your own team close at hand, the opposition can drive you off the ball. There were a number of occasions where backs entered the ruck and just seemed to be passive. And again, Leeds attack those situations and counter ruck very well. Mentioned it earlier. Do think at centres, Rosslyn Park have got the capability and the explosive wingers to exploit Sedge both on the outside, but my suspicion is they'll have been watching videos and they'll be attacking outside centre. Their wingers will be coming in driving at that outside centre, and line breaks could pursue. Sedge at times play some superb rugby, and can't say strongly enough how you should get down, watch live rugby, go and support your local clubs. Sedgley Park is a great example, but there's many, many more. If you've enjoyed what I'm doing, well, please do give it a thumbs up, say hello, subscribe, like. It helps, and it helps rugby generally. A Six Nations weekend, lots to love about rugby. If you can't be at a Six Nations game, watch it on TV, but more, get down to your local club, watch your local team play, and then watch it on their TV, and maybe have a sparkling water whilst you're there. Thank you very much for joining this extended Seniormash Talking Rugby Union, looking at predictions in National League Rugby and the Six Nations. Thanks for your support by liking, subscribing, comments welcome, and thanks to Six Nations Rugby social media and to the team at Talking Rugby Union for their content that helps me produce this.